Have you ever had one of those moments, when you've done nothing wrong, but you have to pay the full price anyway? Have you ever packed up the last personal items from your desk, carried that cardboard box out of the office building, and felt every pair of eyes on the floor watching you through the glass, some sympathetic, some relieved, some cold, but nobody said a word? Have you ever thought that fate, at your most humiliated moment, might flip everything over in a way you could never have imagined? That afternoon, I walked out of the corporate building carrying a cardboard box. Inside, a chipped mug, a half-dead pothose plant, a family photo, and 3 thank you letters. That was the only thing I took away from 4 years at that company. My name is Ethan Lynn. I'm 32 years old, a software engineer, and I'd just been fired. The official reason was business restructuring and position elimination. But the real reason was that I refused to take the fall for my manager's nephew. That in turn had crashed a core module, and my manager wanted me to claim responsibility. I said no. 3 days later, I was called into HR. When I walked out the front doors, the sun was blinding. I stood on the steps, the box's edge digging into my forearm, and looked back at that gray office building. 27 floors. I'd spent 4 years on the 6th. My key card was already returned, my fingerprint access was deleted, I'd even been kicked out of the company group chat. My phone buzzed. A text from my manager, "It's not that I didn't want to help you. Let me buy you dinner sometime." I stared at it for 3 seconds, put the phone back in my pocket, and walked down the steps. That night, I sat in my rental apartment, alone in the dark for a long time. The living room light had been broken for 3 days. I hadn't fixed it. The bulb sat on the coffee table next to a screwdriver, but I didn't feel like moving. Streetlight seeped through the blinds, laying stripes across the floor like prison bars. Half a bag of frozen dumplings sat in the fridge. I boiled them, mixed them with chili paste, and ate them sitting on the floor. The wrappers burst open, leaking grayish filling into the broth. It didn't look appetizing, but I finished every bite. Halfway through, I heard piano music from next door. Halting, broken. Twinkle twinkle little star, 2 notes, then a pause, then from the beginning. A few moments later, a small voice sang along. Then the piano stumbled again. That was the neighbor's daughter, Grace Jo. 6 years old, just started 1st grade. Her mother, Iris, was a single parent, a nurse at the downtown hospital who worked a lot of night shifts. Grace was often home alone. I remembered one time, coming home from work, I saw her in the hallway trying to throw out a bag of trash. She couldn't reach the bin. I helped her. She looked up and said, "Thank you, Uncle," and handed me a wrinkled strawberry candy from her pocket. After that, she'd sometimes knock on my door and say, "Uncle, my mom's not home and I'm scared." I'd let her sit at my table and do her homework while I read. When she finished, she'd draw pictures and stick them on my fridge. There were 12 of them now, suns, flowers, cats, and 2 stick figures holding hands. Thinking of that, I put down my bowl and went to knock on her door. The door cracked open. Grace stood behind it in pink pajamas and bunny slippers, a pencil in her hand. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. "Uncle, have you eaten?" She shook her head. "Mom's on night shift. She told me to make instant noodles. I made too many." I looked past her. On her little table sat a small pot. The noodles had swollen white, the broth nearly boiled dry. "Come eat at my place. I have leftover dumplings." Grace hesitated, looked back at her own apartment, then at me, and nodded firmly. She ran back, dumped the noodles in the sink, washed the pot, then came out and grabbed the hem of my shirt. Her hand was small and warm. I gave her a bowl of dumplings. She sat on a little stool at my coffee table, her chopstick skills still clumsy, drop one, splash the broth, giggle. Watching her eat, something that had been knotted in my chest all day loosened. "Uncle," she said between bites, "did you change jobs?" "How'd you know?" "You came home earlier than usual." Mom says when adults come home early, it means they changed jobs. I sat down across from her, picked up a dumpling, chewed slowly. "Something like that," I said. "Uncle lost his job." Grace stopped chewing. She looked up, her eyes dark and bright in the lamplight. She tilted her head, thought for a moment, then said, "Then do you want to come work at my dad's company?" I blinked. "Your dad?" "Yeah." She nodded. "Dad's company is huge. Every time he visits, he drives a different car." She'd never mentioned her father. Her mother never mentioned him either. All I knew was that they'd lived in this building for 2 years. 2. "What's your dad's name?" I asked. Grace thought about it, then suddenly remembered something. "Wait, Uncle." She put down her chopsticks and ran barefoot back to her apartment. I heard her rummaging through drawers. Then she ran back, clutching a crumpled business card. Gold foil, one line of text. Arthur Liu, Chairman, Liu Holdings Group. A phone number below it. I stared at that card for a long time. Liu Holdings, I'd seen the name in the news. Real estate, finance, tech, healthcare, market cap in the hundreds of billions. And this man's business card was being clutched by a 6-year-old girl, crumpled like a piece of candy wrapper. "Uncle, what's wrong?" Grace waved a hand in front of my face. I came back to myself and handed the card back. "Grace, keep this safe." She took it, looked at it, then handed it back. "You keep it, Uncle. Dad said to call this number if you need help. You helped me, so I'm helping you. How are you going to help?" I smiled, and for some reason my eyes felt hot. Grace said very seriously, "I'm going to call Dad and ask him to find you a job." She took my phone, I unlocked it and handed it to her, and started punching in the number, 1 digit at a time. Her little finger poked at the screen, deleting and re-entering whenever she made a mistake, her brow scrunched with concentration. I thought about stopping her. But I didn't move. She finished dialing and held the phone to her ear. It rang about 3 times. "Dad, it's me." A pause. Then, "Dad, the uncle next door is really nice to me. He throws out my trash, gives me dumplings, and lets me do homework at his place. But he got fired today. Can you find him a job?" A pause on the other end. Grace handed me the phone. "Uncle, Dad wants to talk to you." I took it, my palm damp. A low male voice came through, measured, unhurried, every word carrying weight. "Hello, I'm Arthur Liu. You're Grace's neighbor." "Yes. I'm Ethan Lin. What do you do?" "Software development." 7 years. "What company?" I told him the name. 2 seconds of silence. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Come to the 38th floor of Liu Holdings Tower. Tell the front desk your name. I'll have HR waiting for you. "Mr. Liu, I'm just an ordinary engineer." "Ethan, you've thrown out my daughter's trash, fed her dumplings, and let her into your place when her mother wasn't home. I owe you one. I don't keep debts overnight." The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, watching the screen dim. Grace looked up, hands clasped in front of her, eyes full of hope. "Uncle, did Dad say yes?" I crouched to her level. "He said yes." "Thank you, Grace." She beamed, showing the gap where her front tooth had fallen out. "Then you can keep feeding me dumplings." I laughed. That was the first real laugh I'd had all day. Liu Holdings Tower stood in the downtown financial district, 63 stories of glass and steel. I wore my only decent suit, gray, bought 3 years ago and worn only to job interviews and 2 weddings. Standing in the lobby, looking up, I felt like an ant that had wandered into a giant hive. The front desk sent me to the 38th floor. When the elevator doors opened, a middle-aged man in a crisp white shirt was waiting, gold-rimmed glasses, immaculate hair. "Mr. Lin, I'm Assistant Chin. The chairman is expecting you." The corridor carpet was deep gray. My footsteps made no sound. At the end, a pair of wooden double doors stood ajar. Assistant Chin knocked and pushed them open. The office was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows covered an entire wall, framing the city skyline. Behind a massive desk sat a man, about 50, silver at the temples, straight posture, broad shoulders. Dark blue shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms. He looked up and his eyes rested on me for a few seconds. Assessment, not curiosity. "Ethan Lin," he said, closing a file. "Sit." I sat. Assistant Chin brought tea and withdrew. Arthur Liu didn't bother with small talk. "You were at Fainting Technology for 4 years. I know the real reason you left. You refused to take the fall for Derek Zhang. His nephew crashed a client's data system, and he wanted you to carry it." My hand paused on the teacup. "You looked into me. I want to know who I'm hiring." He folded his hands on the desk. "4 years at Fainting. You didn't play politics, didn't build alliances, just did your work. There are plenty of skilled engineers. There aren't many skilled engineers who keep their heads down." He pressed a button. Assistant Chin handed me a document. "Employment contract. Salary is double what you were making. Senior Technical Director, managing a team of 12. I opened the contract. When I saw the number, my fingers tightened. "Mr. Liu, I do need this job. But I'm here because of your daughter. If you're giving me this position just because of her call, I'm not sure I deserve it." Arthur Liu looked at me. Something shifted in his gaze, like a hairline crack in ice. "Let me tell you what my daughter told me," he said. "She said you threw out her trash, made her dumplings, and let her in when she was scared. She was proud of you. I've been in business for 32 years. With one phone call, I can move $100 million. But no one ever did a single thing just to make my daughter happy without wanting something in return. She gave you a strawberry candy, and you remembered. There aren't many people in this world who'd be kind to someone else's child for no reason." He pushed the contract across the desk. "You work, I pay. Fair trade. Grace's call was her business, not yours. Just do your job." I paused a few seconds. Then I picked up the pen and signed. When I put the pen down, his mouth twitched slightly. "Monday, 9 a.m. report to the 6th floor tech department. Also, are you free tonight?" "Yes. Grace wants to take you to dinner to thank you for the dumplings. She picked the place, McDonald's downstairs. She likes the play area." I blinked, then laughed. "Sure. 6:30, front of the building. Her mother and I will be there." When he said, "her mother," his tone was neutral. But I noticed a faint ring mark on his left ring finger. I stood to leave. At the door, his voice came from behind me. "Ethan. That salary is standard for a technical director. But that thing you just said, 'I'm not sure I deserve it,' made me think I lowballed you." I walked out. The carpet still swallowed my footsteps. In the elevator, the mirrored walls showed my reflection, no dark circles, just a small smile I couldn't suppress. At 6:30 that evening, I stood in front of Liu Holdings Tower. A black sedan pulled up. The back window rolled down, and Grace's head popped out, waving furiously. "Uncle Ethan." The door opened, and she jumped out in a pink hoodie with rabbit ears. Then the passenger door opened, and a woman stepped out. Iris Show. I'd seen her many times, in the hallway, at the entrance, at the package pickup. She was one of those people you'd glance at twice, not because she dressed flashy, but because of something quiet and taut about her, like a guitar string under tension. White blouse, dark jeans, low ponytail, no makeup. She walked over and nodded. Mr. Lin, Grace insisted on treating you. Sorry for the trouble. No trouble. I owe her dumplings anyway. Grace was already pulling my shirt toward the crosswalk. Hurry. The play area opens at 6:30. Arthur Liu followed, in a gray casual jacket, looking a decade younger. He walked to the counter and glanced back. What are you having? Same as Grace. He ordered. Iris stood beside me, hands in her pockets, watching Grace squeal down the slide. Mr. Lin, Iris said without turning, she talks about you all the time. She said you told her a story about a rabbit who went to the moon to find carrots. Oh, that. I made it up. She told me about it 3 times. She said I don't tell it as well as you do. She glanced sideways at me. You're important to her. She's important to me too. Iris didn't react strangely, just looked down and smiled faintly. Arthur Liu returned with a tray. He found a window seat and opened the nugget box. Grace told me that on the day you got fired, you came home and kept cooking dumplings. She asked why you made so many, and you said you didn't want to waste them. I took my burger. Arthur Liu broke a fry in half. Your manager was Derek Zhang, right? Yes. He was fired this afternoon. His nephew went with him. And Fingting's VP of Tech submitted his resignation 3 hours ago, after a whistleblower report landed on the board's desk covering 3 data security incidents. I stared at him. You. I didn't do anything improper. I just had someone compile a record of Fingting's security failures over the past 2 years. The appropriate information was made public. The rest, other people took care of it. Iris sipped her Coke quietly, as if she hadn't heard a word. Grace ran out of the play area, sweaty, and threw herself against Arthur's leg. Dad, ice cream. He brushed her bangs aside. Go with Uncle. She turned to me, eyes shining. Uncle, ice cream. I looked at her flushed little face, and something stirred in me. Yeah. Uncle's buying. She pulled me toward the counter. As we passed Iris, she looked up and our eyes met, her mouth curved, just slightly, and I saw it. On the ride home, Grace fell asleep in the car, her head on Iris's shoulder. Arthur Liu drove, I sat in the passenger seat. Quiet, except for the AC and Grace's breathing. As we neared the neighborhood, Arthur Liu said, "Do you know why I got rid of them?" Because I did some small favors for your daughter. Because you never expected anything in return. She made that call, but you never even thought about asking her to. You didn't even stop her. He pulled up and killed the engine. She gave you a candy. You gave her dumplings. That's fair. He turned to me. If anyone gives you trouble at work, come straight to me. Your backup now is the person with the loudest voice in this building. I got out. He tapped the window. Grace says you tell good stories. Next time, tell me if that rabbit found his carrots. The black sedan pulled away. I stood at the gate, streetlight on my back. 12 drawings still on the fridge. I sat down, opened my laptop, looked at my resume, closed it after 5 minutes. Wouldn't need it anymore. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, Ethan, it's Derek Zhang. You know why I got fired, don't you? Just wait. I stared at it for 10 seconds, then put the phone face down. Streetlights still fell in bars through the blinds. But the gaps between them felt wider than before. Monday, 8:30 a.m. I stood at the front desk on the 6th floor. Open-plan cubicles, whiteboards covered in flowcharts, a coffee station with a dozen mismatched mugs. A young woman with a ponytail came up. "Mr. Lin. I'm Maya Yang, project assistant. Let me show you to your desk." Corner desk by the window. New monitor, small cactus, nameplate reading Ethan Lin. Sunlight angled in, spilling across the desk. Tiny dust motes drifted in the light. At the morning meeting, I met the 12 team members. I kept it short. "I'm Ethan Lin. 7 years full stack, 4 projects delivered. I don't like meetings that drag, uncommented code, or requirements that change 3 times before a prototype. Let's get the work done." After the meeting, a short guy with a coffee mug came over. "Mr. Lin, I'm Charlie Zhou, backend team. You did that delivery robot path optimization algorithm at Fingting. Efficiency 23% above industry average. Signed LY, that was you." A few people looked up from their keyboards, the wariness in their eyes softening. That afternoon, I spent 2 hours reading the current project documentation, a credit risk assessment system for a commercial bank. 2 areas for improvement, a slow query interface, and a Redis cache hit rate of only 62%. I listed issues on the whiteboard. 4 people gathered behind me. "Layered caching," I said, pointing at a node on the flowchart. "Pull out hot data separately. We can push the hit rate over 80%. Charlie leaned in, then whispered, "He caught this on day 1. "Keep your voice down," I heard that. Charlie's ears went red. A few suppressed laughs. I left the office at 8:30 that night. My phone buzzed with a message from Iris. "Grace is asleep. She wanted to share her new backpack with you. Free tomorrow." "Free? What time?" "After 6, at the building." "Okay." I walked a few steps before realizing my mouth was curved into a smile. Tuesday, Grace showed me her new backpack, purple, with a cartoon fox wearing a bow. She spun around, unzipped every compartment. "This is for textbooks, this is for pencil cases, and this tiny pocket is for notes." She looked up. "Uncle, can you write me notes too?" I crouched down. "Sure. But you have to teach me to write. Don't you already know how to write? Your handwriting is better than mine." She considered that, found it reasonable, and nodded. "Okay. Tuition, and ice cream." I flicked her forehead gently. She giggled and covered it with both hands. Iris stood at the entrance with groceries, evening light outlining her in gold. She didn't rush, just waited. Grace ran back to her, pulling her toward the stairs, then turned. "Uncle, will you walk me to school tomorrow? I start work earlier than you." "Then walk me first and be late." I laughed. "Fine. But if I'm late, you're telling my boss." Grace thought about it. "Then I'll have Dad tell him." Iris lightly tapped her head. "Don't go running to Dad for everything." Grace stuck out her tongue and pulled her mother upstairs. Footsteps faded. Halfway to my building, my phone buzzed. "Arthur Liu, Grace says you're taking her to school tomorrow. I'm sending a car for you. 8 a.m. at the gate. Driver on standby. Don't be late." Below that, a driver's number and a sunglasses smiley emoji. I stared at the emoji for a few seconds. A man worth billions had sent me a sunglasses smiley emoji. "Thanks, Chairman Liu." He wrote back, "Call me uncle." I stood under the streetlight for a full 10 seconds, then replied, "Okay." Wednesday, the black sedan was waiting. The driver took us to Grace's building. She jumped in before her backpack strap was buckled. Iris chased after her to fasten it, her hair brushing my arm. She straightened, slightly apologetic. Sorry for the trouble. Not at all. I'm heading that way anyway. Your office is nowhere near her school. Grace piped up, Mom, Uncle said it's okay to be late. Iris gave me a look, half chiding, half something else. She flicked Grace's nose. So much chatter. Then she stepped back and waved. As the car pulled away, she stood there, hands in her pockets, wind stirring her hair, watching. That evening, Iris messaged, Grace said she had a great day at school. Thank you. You're welcome. A few seconds later, free this weekend. She wants you to come over for dinner. I can cook a few things. I stared at the words. My heartbeat skipped. Free. What time? 6. Okay. I put my phone away and leaned back. The driver glanced at me in the rearview, said nothing. Saturday, I showed up half an hour early, carrying strawberries and a picture book, the sequel to the Rabbit's Moon adventure. It had taken me 3 days to find. Grace opened the door in a new dress, 2 braids framing her face, and launched herself at my leg. Uncle. Mom made so many dishes. She dragged me inside. The tiny living room was spotless, the table laid with 5 dishes, braised ribs, stir-fried vegetables, tomato egg soup, steamed sea bass, golden fried dumplings. Iris appeared from the kitchen, an apron dusted with flour. When she saw what I was carrying, she paused. Grace said she wanted to see the sequel. I set the book on the coffee table. She wiped her hands, picked it up, flipped through it, and smiled, her eyes crinkling, her whole face lighting up. You actually found it. Grace matters to me. She glanced at me, brief but sharp enough to remember. At the table, Grace ferried food between us, chopsticks busy. Iris peeled shrimp, Grace transferred half into my bowl. Uncle, Mom says shrimp is brain food. Iris's cheeks went pink. She ducked over her rice. I did the same. After dinner, I did the dishes. Iris stood beside me, wiping the counter. Grace was in the living room, her giggles floating in. Ethan, Iris said softly, Grace has been much happier since you came around. She's always been a happy kid. That's when you're here. She folded the dish towel and turned. Her father isn't around, and I'm busy with work. She used to sit alone sometimes, talking to her toys. Now she looks forward to 6 o'clock. The faucet was still running. I reached over and turned it off. I look forward to 6 o'clock too. She didn't answer. The kitchen light was warm, her eyelashes casting tiny shadows. After a long pause, she said softly, I know. When I left, Grace waved from the doorway. Iris stood behind her, one hand on the frame. Yellow hallway light, the 2 of them in it. By the 3rd week, rumors were spreading. Interns at the coffee machine spilled coffee when they saw me. Their looks had shifted from new technical director to that guy connected to the chairman. In the morning meeting, Leo Liu, head of product, interrupted me 3 times. The 3rd time, he put his feet on the conference table. Mr. Lin, your plan sounds great, but who's paying for it? Product's budget is fixed. I put down the laser pointer. I already calculated the cost. I was covering that part before you interrupted. If you'd been listening, you wouldn't have asked. Leo's face tightened. He put his feet down, gave a dry laugh. Just confirming. Confirming is good. But next time, check the documentation first. First page. He opened his mouth, closed it. Someone across the table ducked to hide a smile. At lunch, Charlie leaned in. Mr. Lin, Leo and Derek Zhang were college buddies. When Derek had problems, Leo covered for him. Now Derek's down, Leo probably thinks he's next. I chewed and thought. If Leo does his job properly, he won't be next. That afternoon, Leo applied for a transfer. HR routed it to Assistant Chin routed it to Arthur Liu. Arthur Liu approved it, one word, granted. When the email went out, the sixth floor went quiet for a moment. Then the coffee room erupted in muffled laughter and quiet high fives. At the end of the day, I ran into Assistant Chin in the elevator. As we descended, he said, Mr. Lin, the chairman asked me to pass along a message. Has the rabbit found his carrot yet? My daughter's waiting for the sequel. The doors opened. Assistant Chin nodded and walked out. The mirrored walls showed my face, smiling. That night, I met Iris at the neighborhood gate. Loose sweater, bag of trash. When she saw me, she smiled. Grace drew a picture at school today. She said she wants to give it to you tomorrow. What's the picture? She wouldn't say. Said you can't open a gift early. She tossed the trash and brushed her hands. She said the rabbit found a carrot patch on the moon and made a friend there, a bird that couldn't fly. Birds can't live on the moon. I told her. She said stories can have anything. She laughed softly. She also said the bird looks like you. I look like a bird. She said your hair looks like wings. She laughed again. It's late. She'll want you to take her to school tomorrow. I promised. She took a few steps, then turned. Ethan. If you're free this weekend, let's go to the bookstore. She wants to pick out a new rabbit book. Free. She nodded and walked away. I watched the stairwell lights click on one by one, stopping at the third floor as warm yellow came through the window. That night, I scrolled through photos of Grace's drawings. One showed 3 figures holding hands, tall, medium, small. Tall was male, medium female, small had braids. Each had a crooked smile above their heads. I looked a long time, then put the phone down. In the 5th week, something happened. I came back from a technical review to find 7 missed calls on my phone. I answered the 8th. Ethan, it's Derek Zhang. His voice was different, tight and dry, like a rubber band stretched too long. What do you want? You've got the nerve to ask. I'm fired, my reputation's ruined, no one will touch me. My nephew, his first job, gone. My wife fights with me every day. You're something else, Ethan. I leaned against my desk. Sunlight angled in. Everything around me was normal, only my hand felt cold. Derek, you were fired because you covered up 3 data security incidents over 2 years. One nearly cost a client $30 million. I just compiled the facts. If you hadn't done those things, no one could have touched you. A long silence. But have you ever thought that after you left, I could have changed? You had 2 years to change. You didn't. He didn't answer. A few seconds later, the line went dead. That evening, I walked out of the building and saw someone across the street, old jacket, messy hair, hunched shoulders like a crumpled piece of paper. Derek Zhang. He hesitated, then walked over, stopping 3 feet away. He didn't look at me. His eyes were on the ground. Ethan, I'm not here to cause trouble. Pause. After I got fired, my wife took the kids to her parents. My nephew won't leave his room. My life is probably over. But I came here to tell you, you were right. I did those things. I shouldn't have asked you to take the blame. I'm sorry. When he said those words, he seemed to shrink. He stood for a few seconds, then turned and walked away, slow steps, slumped shoulders, disappearing into the twilight. I texted Arthur Liu, Derek Zhang came to see me today. He apologized. 5 minutes later, I know. You okay? Fine. Good. Grace's school open house is tomorrow night. You coming? Yes. Good. I stood on the steps as streetlights flickered on. Spring had come earlier this year. Or maybe it had finally arrived. That night, I walked to Grace's building but didn't go up. Under the streetlight, I watched the third-floor window. Pink curtains. A small silhouette passed behind them. Grace was practicing piano, and this time, she made it through the whole song without stopping. That little voice sang, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." I leaned against the lamppost and listened. After the last note, I heard her clap for herself. 1, 2, 3. I smiled and turned to go. My phone buzzed. Iris, she said she played the whole song today. She wants to play it for you next time. I replied, okay. Time slid by. 2 months at Liu Holdings. The tech department had found its rhythm. Response times dropped by 40%, cache hit rates climbed from 62 to 86. Operations sent me an email that opened with, "We should have had you here sooner." The team loosened up. Charlie no longer called me Mr. Lin, just Ethan. Vivian Chen, the front-end lead, had fought with me in 3 sprint meetings. After the 4th, she said, "You're annoying, but you're annoyingly right." In the coffee room one day, "Charlie, Ethan, what's your connection to the chairman?" "His daughter's my neighbor." "That's it." "That's it." "Then why does his daughter get you a car?" "She's 6. She asked him to." "So you climbed the ladder by being a neighbor." "I got here on my technical skills." "Then why do you have his private line?" "He wants me to tell his daughter bedtime stories." Charlie shook his head, muttering as he walked away, "Skills are worth less than storytelling." I heard that. His ears went red. That afternoon, Arthur Liu appeared on the 6th floor. The office went quiet instantly. He walked to my desk and set down a folder. "Internal Tech Summit next week. You're presenting, Architectural Optimization of Intelligent Risk Control Systems. 40 minutes. Don't run over." He turned and walked away, then stopped. "Come for dinner this weekend. Grace learned a new piece for you." The floor was quiet for 5 seconds. "Charlie, Ethan, you call the chairman dinner plans." "He told me to call him uncle." Laughter, surprise, envy, amusement, but no malice. That night, Iris was waiting downstairs. She leaned against the wall, holding an envelope. "Grace asked me to give you this. No peeking. Rainbow and sun stickers, addressed to Uncle Ethan." "She's asleep." "Yeah. Practiced for hours. She wanted to get it perfect by the weekend." Iris smiled. "She said she had to play better than last time." "Last time when?" "The night you stood outside listening to her play." I paused. "How did you know?" "She saw you." She said, "Uncle stood under the streetlight for a long time." Iris looked down, scuffing her toe. "She stood at the window for a long time too. The streetlight pulled our shadows close." "Ethan," she said, "Grace wants to go to the zoo this weekend. Come with us. Free. 9 o'clock Saturday, downstairs." "Okay." She turned, walked 2 steps, stopped. "Ethan." She turned back, light on her hair, her face half in shadow. She opened her mouth, closed it. "Nothing. See you Saturday." I opened the envelope under the streetlight. A crayon drawing, rabbit, bird, adult, child. Rabbit on the moon, bird flying beside, adult and child on the ground. In crooked letters, our family. I folded it carefully and put it in my shirt pocket, over my heart. That night, Iris, she said, once you read the card, I should ask if you smiled. I replied, I smiled. 2 seconds later, me too. Saturday morning. Rain cleared by 9, air washed clean, water droplets glinting on leaves. Grace was waiting, yellow giraffe t-shirt, baseball cap, water bottle, bulging backpack. Uncle. You're 30 seconds late. I was 29 seconds early. That's still 1 second off. Iris appeared, white blouse, beige cardigan, loose braid over her shoulder. Sunlight caught her like a soft glaze. 1 second late means ice cream. She winked. Grace, yes. The zoo was crowded. Grace ran ahead, calling at every enclosure, Uncle, come quick. At the giraffe exhibit, Grace stood on tiptoe, stretching her neck. Iris stood behind her, hand on her shoulder. She's like you, I said. In what way? She focuses hard. So do you. Iris glanced sideways, her mouth curving slightly. A crowd of people pushed past me. I stumbled forward half a step and reached for the rail, my hand landing next to Iris's. She looked over, and our eyes met. She didn't move her hand. Then she extended her little finger half an inch, touching mine. Soft, like a feather. I didn't pull away. Neither did she. Grace called from a distance, Mom. The giraffe is looking at me. Iris pulled her hand back and walked over, half a step faster, her ears red in the sunlight like a small persimmon. We stayed until closing. Grace fell asleep at the panda exhibit. Iris carried her, I carried all the bags. Sunset stretched long shadows across the paths. Let me carry her. She looked at me, hesitated, then gently passed Grace over. Grace's head rested on my shoulder, her breath warm against my neck, smelling of milk and sweat. Ethan. Pause. Grace's school has a family event next week. Family members required. She asked if you could come. What did you say? I said, you'll have to ask him yourself. I looked at her. She was smiling, but with a hint of uncertainty. I was going to ask her if she'd want me to be a family member. Iris stopped. In the sunset, sky shifting from orange to deep blue, wind lifting her hair. She looked at me, mouth slightly open. Finally, she just curved her lips. She would. Grace stirred on my shoulder, mumbled, fell back asleep. That night, I texted Arthur Liu, Chairman Liu, I'm going to Grace's school family event next week. He replied, she told you. She didn't, her mom did. Oh. What role are you attending as? I thought, then wrote, the bird from the rabbit story. A question mark. Grace will tell you. An ellipsis, then, fine. Come for dinner this weekend and explain. The family event was Thursday. Bright yellow school building, flag strung across the playground. Grace ran to me at the gate. Uncle, come to my classroom, there's an extra chair next to mine. She pulled me through the hallway. Artwork was posted outside the classroom. Grace's was a tree with a heart-shaped crown labeled, My Home. The activity was a parent-child clay craft. Grace chose to make a rabbit, just like the one from your story, Uncle. She worked slowly, squeezing and reshaping until she ended up with a lopsided figure, one ear higher, body as thick as a potato. She handed it to me solemnly. Uncle, this is for you. What's its name? She thought seriously. Looking for the carrot. Has it found one yet? Not yet. But it knows it's there. Because it has a good friend, she pointed to herself, waiting for it to find one. She went back to shaping clay, humming, Twinkle Twinkle. Sunlight slanted across our table. Iris watched through the classroom window. When I looked up, she smiled, light, like a ripple on water. Near the end, Grace's teacher crouched beside her. Grace, who came with you today? Grace looked at me, then at her mom at the door. This is my uncle. He tells rabbit stories. Uncle, not Daddy. Dad is working. But my uncle tells lots of stories. Next time I'll bring Dad too. The teacher smiled and patted her head. As we walked out, Grace held my hand and her mother's, skipping. The sunset stretched 3 long shadows across the path. Ethan, Iris said, have you thought about what happens next? Next about what? Your job. Your life. Pause. And us. I like my job now. I plan to stay. As for life, I want to finish the rabbit story. Her step slowed. When you finish it, then what? Then the rabbit and his friend live together. The friend grows him a carrot patch. She stopped. Under the street lamp, she said softly, could that carrot patch fit on a balcony? Yeah. The rabbit said the balcony was big enough. She pulled Grace closer and smiled, relieved, careful, happy. She reached up and brushed dust off my shoulder. Light, once, then pulled away. That night, I placed the clay rabbit at the center of my desk next to a pot of white daisies. Then I texted Arthur Liu, the rabbit found the carrot. The story is complete. He replied with a voice message. In the background, papers shuffled, and his low steady voice carried a hint of humor. Good. Come for dinner this weekend and tell me the full version. My daughter wants to be the first audience member. I answered, okay. In my 3rd month, I was named technical director and permanent member of the group technology committee. When the news rolled across the screen on the 6th floor, everyone looked at me. Charlie walked over and shook my hand. Ethan, now that you're on the committee, can we upgrade the coffee machine? Write clean code and I'll think about it. At noon, my phone lit up. Iris had sent a photo, Grace leaning on the windowsill, holding a drawing that read, Congratulations Uncle, in crooked letters, missing one stroke, with a small arrow that said, I'll fix it. That evening, Maya called me over with a package from Finding Technology, HR department. Inside, a formal letter acknowledging procedural irregularities in my dismissal, reclassifying it as mutual agreement. The weight was lifted. I walked past the neighborhood gate and saw Arthur Liu under the streetlight, a paper bag in his hand. Grace asked me to bring you this. She wanted to send the menu early. Inside was a handmade card, letters pressed so hard they nearly poked through. Uncle, weekend menu, braised ribs, tomato eggs, dumplings, I made 2, and ice cream. You have to come. Your good friend, Grace. She worked on it all afternoon, Arthur said. Tell her thanks. Tell her yourself. He turned, walked 2 steps, then stopped. That fainting letter, I had assistant Chen push it through. Thank you. No need. He waved without turning. Just tell a new story when you come for dinner. I carried the bag upstairs. Passing Grace's door, I heard piano, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, played all the way through, no mistakes. I stood there through the whole song. After the last note, applause from inside. Then Iris's voice, beautiful. Then Grace, Mom, Uncle's outside. The door cracked open. Grace's face appeared, looking up at me. Uncle, did you hear me finish it? I heard it. Wonderful. She grinned. Then I'll play it again when you come for dinner. Okay. After she closed the door, I heard her whisper, "Mom, Uncle said wonderful." Iris said something I couldn't catch, soft, like laughter. Dinner that weekend at Grace's place. Braised ribs sent the moment I walked in. Grace opened the door in a new dress, 2 braids with pink puffs. "Uncle, sit next to me." 5 dishes on the table. Iris came out with the last course, a light sheen of sweat on her forehead. She changed into a new blouse, a thin silver bracelet on her wrist. After dinner, I did the dishes. Iris stood beside me, cutting fruit. Kitchen window open, gardenia scent drifting in. Iris. Next month, I'll be traveling a lot, projects in a few cities. Probably 3 to 4 weeks out of each month. Her knife paused, then continued slower. How long? Each project a week or 2. About 6 months total. She arranged the apples on a plate, wiped her hands, and turned to face me. What about Grace? Back on weekends. And there's a sequel, Rabbit at the Ocean, Looking for Seashells. Her lips twitched. Busy rabbit. The rabbit said it doesn't mind being busy, as long as it has friends. She looked down at the counter, her lashes trembling. Ethan, you know I'm not just talking about Grace. I know. I've been thinking about it too. I turned and leaned on the counter beside her. I'm 32, single, no car, no house. Just got my job back. I don't have much to offer. But you tell stories. That's not a real skill. Yes, it is. She turned to face me. Grace can't sleep without a bedtime story. And you build stories around her, make her feel like she's the little bird. How many people in this world would do that for a 6-year-old? So when are you going to start this seashell sequel? Probably tonight. Grace first. Then you, tomorrow morning. She smiled, light as a feather. Grace called from the living room, "Uncle, Mom, I want to play piano." Iris picked up the apple plate, walked to the kitchen door, and looked back, wind lifting her hair, her smile full of light. Grace played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star without a mistake. She bowed. Iris and I clapped. She leaned to my ear, "Secret, Mom bought that new blouse yesterday." She tried on 3 in front of the mirror. I glanced at Iris, she was drinking water, her ears visibly pink. Grace leaned closer, "Uncle, do you like my mom?" I looked into her bright eyes. "What do you think?" She thought, then nodded. "I think yes. Because I do too, I like you too." She ran back to the piano. Twinkle Twinkle started again. When I left, Grace waved from the doorway. "Uncle, can the rabbit swim at the ocean?" "No, but the bird will teach it." "Can the bird swim itself?" The bird didn't know either, until a friend taught it. "Who's the friend?" "The rabbit's neighbor. She grew carrots and baked cookies." Grace's eyes crinkled. Iris stood behind her and handed me a peeled pear. "Eat it on the way." The pear was still warm from her hand. I bit into it as I walked out, sweet, juice running between my fingers. 3 floors up, the pink curtain glowed with 2 overlapping shadows. I stood for a moment. Spring was ending. Summer wind was on its way. Before sleep, I saw Arthur Lew's post, Grace on his lap, holding a drawing of a rabbit and bird by the ocean. Caption, sequel. I liked it. Closed my eyes. Streetlights still came through the blinds, but the bars had disappeared. Everything that had stood in my way was still there, but it didn't weigh as much. Summer was coming. Travel started in May. First Shenzhen, then Chengdu, Hangzhou, Beijing, a week or 2 in each city. Days of meetings, code reviews, late nights in gray hotel rooms. A stack of boarding passes grew in my pocket. The night before I left, Grace stood at the stairwell landing, hugging the orange flower pot. "Uncle, how long this time?" "2 weeks. Then back a few days, then gone again." "What about the rabbit at the ocean?" "If you leave halfway through, I'll pick it up when I get back. Stories don't run away." She thought, nodded, and handed me a folded piece of paper. "Travel snacks." I opened it, a rabbit sitting on a plane, clouds outside the window, a carrot in its paw, and in crooked letters, "Good luck." Iris stepped up and handed me a bag. "Fruit and bread. Airplane food's bad." The bag was heavy, a box of neatly cut apples, 2 rolls, a bag of crackers. Each apple sliced the same size. "Thank you." She just fixed my collar, quick, ordinary, but her fingers paused on the fabric for a moment. Then she stepped back, hands in her pockets. "Safe travels." "Okay. Text when you land." "I will." Grace, looking between us, "Uncle, do you like apples?" "Mom's apple slices are delicious." "I do." "Then I'll have her cut them again next time you come back." Iris's ears went pink. "You plan everything, don't you?" Grace answered, matter of fact, "Uncle's family." I crouched and hugged Grace. Her arms tightened around my neck. "Come back soon," she said, voice muffled. I stood, looked at Iris. She looked back, something steady in her gaze. Then I turned and went downstairs. At the second-floor landing, Grace called, "Uncle, the bird has to learn to swim." I raised a hand without turning. Week 2 in Shenzhen. 1 a.m., hotel balcony, cigarette. My phone lit up in the dark. Iris sent a photo, Grace at the coffee table, drawing, a star sticker on her forehead. A bird with huge wings, like doors. She said the bird's wings grew big enough to fly across the whole ocean. Then, get some sleep. You have meetings tomorrow. I stared at the photo. Zoomed in on the silver sticker, on her paint-stained fingers. Unfamiliar city skyline beyond the balcony, lights going out one by one. I replied, "Okay. When I'm back, you'll cut apples." After a moment, "Done. Biggest piece for you." Week 6. Grace started sending voice messages every night. Sometimes a sentence, "Someone gave me a seat on the subway today." Sometimes half a song, humming when she forgot the words. Sometimes just a few notes of piano practice. I saved them all. Folders sorted by date. Each short, maybe an hour total. But when I couldn't sleep, I played them in order, from first to latest, hearing her voice brighten from spring into summer. Week 7. Home for one night. Early morning, I picked Grace up for school. She ran out in her purple backpack, launched herself at me, pencil case clattering inside. "Uncle, you're thinner." "I am not. Mom says people lose weight on business trips because the food is bad." I crouched to tie her shoes. Iris stood at the unit door with a bag. She handed it to me, warm, insulated. Frozen dumplings. Made them myself. Heat them up when you don't feel like cooking. She wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans, hair tied back, no makeup. Sunlight fell across her shoulder. "What time did you get up?" I asked. 5:30. "Dumplings don't take long. You had the night shift until 2. She didn't answer, just put her hands in her pockets. "Go. She'll be late." Grace was already 10 feet away. "Hurry, hurry." I carried the dumplings down the street. At the gate, I looked back. Iris stood in the same spot, hands in pockets, watching. I waved. She nodded, just slightly. End of August. Final project signed off. At Beijing Capital Airport, waiting for my flight home, I got a push notification, promoted to Deputy Secretary of the Group Technology Committee. I read it twice, screenshotted it, sent it to Arthur Liu. He replied, yeah. 10 seconds later, forwarded to Grace. She wanted me to tell you, Uncle, good job on the trip, reward is a packet of cookies. I laughed and forwarded the screenshot to Iris. She replied with an ellipsis. Then a photo, Grace holding a new drawing, welcome home, and 2 figures holding hands under a rainbow. 2 minutes later, she says she's waiting downstairs after school. She hid a candy for you. Strawberry. She said it's your favorite. As the plane took off, I leaned back and watched the clouds spread beneath. In my pocket, 22 boarding passes, all from different cities, all flying to one place. I arrived home at sunset. Taxi to the gate, suitcase up 6 flights. At the last turn, I saw 2 shapes in the stairwell light. Grace sat on the step outside my door, in her yellow giraffe t-shirt, already too small, a sketchbook on her lap. She looked up, froze, then launched herself at me. Uncle. She wrapped her arms around my waist, forehead pressed to my stomach. You're back. I set down the suitcase and picked her up. Heavier than before. Stronger. I'm back. She pulled a wrinkled strawberry candy from her pocket, same as the first one, in the hallway, months ago. I saved it in my pencil case. Mom said it might melt, but it didn't. She pushed it into my palm. Eat. I unwrapped it. Strawberry, sweet and sour. She watched, waiting. I nodded, said it was good, and her eyes crinkled. Footsteps below. Iris came up with a plate of apples, crescent-shaped slices, all the same size. She paused at the landing, looked at me, smiled. Back. Back. She held out the plate. Biggest piece for you. I took it. Crunchy, sweet. Grace slipped down and pulled my shirt toward her apartment. Mom made so many dishes. Ribs. Dumplings. Soup. I followed her, looking back. Iris followed behind with the plate, unhurried, walking a path with no rush. Summer was ending, autumn wind mixed in the dusk. But as I crossed the threshold, the kitchen warmth wrapped around me, warm from late spring until now. Grace's piano stood in the corner. On the lid, a new drawing, rabbit and bird on a beach, shells at their feet, blue ocean spreading to the edge of the paper. She pointed, Uncle, the rabbit found the shells. The bird helped. How? The bird flies high and sees far. It told the rabbit where to look. She pointed to the bird. It even carried one for the rabbit. I knelt beside her, studying the drawing. A last patch of orange light lingered outside the window. Iris called, Wash up, dinner's ready. Grace jumped up and ran. I paused at the kitchen door. Iris was ladling soup, steam rising around her face. She looked up through the vapor, eyes curving. I sat at the table. Grace was already on her stool, hands under her chin, waiting. Outside, cicadas hummed, fading, softer, summer closing its doors. After dinner, I moved the orange flowers back from the balcony. Grace said it was getting cold. The plant had grown, several new blooms crowded together, cheerful. I set it on the windowsill. Grace stood beside me, leaning on the sill, looking out. Streetlights on, people walking dogs, cars moving on the distant overpass. Uncle, she said, you're not leaving again. Not leaving. Work's done. She was quiet. Then, you can tell me stories every day. Every day. You'll run out of rabbits. She turned, streetlight catching her face, her eyelashes golden. "Uncle," she said, "will you just live with us from now on?" Before I could answer, Iris's voice from the living room, "Grace, don't be pushy." Grace called back, "I wasn't pushy." Then, to me, "You can sleep at your place tonight. Move tomorrow." Who said anything about moving? She explained, perfectly logical, "Bring one thing at a time. When it's all here, you don't have to go back." I stood at the window, looking at her. She waited, hands on the sill, heels rocking. Kitchen sounds behind us, dishes, water. "Go ask your mom," I said. Grace ran. I heard her, "Mom, Uncle said to ask you." Iris cut her off, too soft to catch. Grace ran back, breathless. "Mom said we'll talk about it tomorrow." Tomorrow meant it wasn't a no. I ruffled her hair. Wine through the screen brought the scent of approaching September, not hot anymore, cool and clean. Gardenia from below. Osmanthus soon. Overpass lights traced a blurry band into the night. I stood at the sixth-floor window, a 6-year-old's breath beside me, a woman cleaning up in the kitchen behind me. The clay rabbit, looking for the carrot, still sat on my desk at home. But maybe it would move soon. Along with the daisies. I looked at the orange flowers. They swayed quietly in the night breeze. Summer was gone. But the warmth stayed.